Action.
Hello, my name is Hugh Knight, and I'm the Fechtmeister of die Schlachtschule. Today, in our continuing series on the plays of the Meisterhau, we're going to talk about the Zwerchhau. The Zwerchhau is the quintessential single-time cut with opposition. What that means is that we use a cut to both protect ourselves against an attack and to strike our opponent in one motion. Okay? So what we're going to do is take a look at how it works, the problems with it, and how to better execute it. The first thing to understand about the Zwerchhau is actually the footwork. Now, in order to do a Zwerchhau, we're told to jump into the side. We want to attack from an angle. This requires what I call a slope step. A slope step involves stepping forward diagonally and then turning the back foot so that you're at an angle to your opponent. Thus-like. Okay? That's a slope step. Now, the thing about a slope step is that you have to visualize a half circle on the ground before you. You can step anywhere you wish on that half circle, and you will have executed a slope step. For example, I can step almost directly out to the side and execute a slope step. Usually, 90 degrees is a little too far back and you won't be able to reach your opponent. Where you step with your slope step can affect different kinds of techniques. In this technique, you need to be relatively close to your opponent because you'll be cutting into an upper hanging, which is the shortest reach of all the kinds of techniques we have. Therefore, when you do the slope step, you should step largely close to the front and then step across. Okay? That's one thing I think people don't always grasp about this. Now, here is the technique. When my opponent attacks me, as you can see, my sword turns in front of my head, my cross protects me, and I strike him in the head in the exact same motion. Single time, cut with opposition. The opposition being I'm on his blade. Okay? Now, here's some of the problems that people have. In a previous video, we discussed the idea of the hands leading the point. Nowhere is this as big a problem as it is here, except possibly in the Schlachtschule, and I think here it's even bigger problem. What many people do is they lead with their hands such that their opponent impacts the sword higher up on the blade, and they can't truly spin past it. When you correctly do a Zwerchhau, the blade of your sword should be very much like a helicopter propeller, in that it simply spins into the target. Okay? As you can see there, I did push my hands over to the side because I had to go up into the left upper hanging. But my point led, if you understand how I mean that. One mistake I've seen several times is that people don't bring the point around enough early enough. I think it's pretty clear why that would be a bad plan. Another mistake people make is they drop their point. Sort of doing a rising flat cut. All of these are problems. Now, in order to execute it correctly, you start with your left hand pulling up and across this way, okay? And your point coming around and across in front of you. Don't let the point drop below the initial level of your hands. Okay? The left hand must lead because it has to rotate the sword so you can assume a true thumb grip. No hitchhiking allowed, please. Only a true thumb grip. So if you look at my hands closely at the end of this cut, you can see that I'm in a true thumb grip, my hands are above my head, and I'm in direct contact with his weapon. Notice that this hand, my left hand, is not up in the air like this. It's down under the blade. Notice that my hands are raised enough so that his sword doesn't ride down over my fingers and cut them. Okay? Notice that my hands are not extended out like this. I'm back in close to my head. And notice that my cross is directly in front of my head so that he can't hit me. All of these are important aspects to understand with the Zwerchhau. Again, watch closely. Okay? One more time. Alright? Now let's talk about some of the plays from the Zwerchhau. It is extremely easy for an opponent who is attacking you to simply drop his blade against yours, stopping your Zwerchhau from working. Now, once I am in this position, I must use Fühlen to decide what to do. This is another example where we're going to apply active Fühlen. And what I mean by active Fühlen is that I'm going to test the bind using the technique I would use in a soft bind. If that works, great. I don't need to worry about anything else. If it doesn't, I'll go on to something else. Now the technique we're going to use to test it is the Neck Schnitt, or the neck slice. I simply lift my sword. Notice that I'm using a push-pull action in my hands to go right over his head. I lay it firmly against his neck and slice with this side of my blade. Okay? If he is soft in the bind, I usually have no trouble doing that. However, if he's soft in the bind, he may become hard in the bind even then. So if he does, I try that technique and it doesn't work. No harm done. I'm protected. But from here I must do something else because that's not going to work. The books give us several options, one of which is the duplierance. And notice how I'm just turning the sword in front of my head, keeping myself protected. The other is the cross knot, in which I knock his sword out to the side. Remember, it is a cardinal error to leave the bind when an opponent is threatening you. This gets around that by doing something to prevent him from acting, from preventing him from threatening you. So when I'm here, I simply pop, see how his sword flies away? And then without pulling my hands back, I turn them inside the same arc as I slope step to the other side for its Zwerchhau over here. Watch that. Okay? Those are the basic principle techniques of the Zwerchhau. I hope they help everybody. I hope they make things clear to understand. Thank you.